Welcome to Mikam Israel. This week we speak not of grand speeches, but of a quiet presence, not of booming leadership, but of the subtle choices, a gesture, a glance, a tone that changes the course of a neshama. In a parasha about tragedy and collapse, we search for a whisper that heals, and we find it in a single game of chess. In this week's parasha, we encounter one of the most tragic missteps in our history, the mission of the Meragalim, the spies. The Torah counts Vaishivo oto davar, they brought the word back from them, et kol ha'edah, and the entire congregation, Vaisapru lo, and they said to them, they recounted Vayomru, and they said, there's a clear contradiction. The pasuk begins by stating that the spies addressed everyone, but then shifts to say that they only spoke to Moshe. So who did they speak to? The nation? Or was it just Moshe? The Platzer Gaon, Rav Aryeh Leibtzins Zatzal, answers masterfully. Indeed, the spies began by praising the land before the people, but then they pulled Moshe aside. And that's when the real concerns emerged. The nation noticed. They saw the whispers, the private glances, the shift in tone. And the seeds of catastrophe were planted not through open rebellion, but through subtle erosion of trust. Because sometimes what breaks a person is not what's said aloud, but what's implied. A raised eyebrow, a pause, a whispered word behind closed doors. The Meragalim tried to play both sides to sound loyal while quietly sowing fear. And that duplicity destroyed us. From this we learn, it's not just the Lashon Hara that wounds, it's the shrug, the smirk, the I could tell you but I won't. Even the smallest gesture can tip the scale of a soul. And yet, just as a whisper can break a heart, a whisper can also bring it back. If silence can destroy, then presence, true presence, can rebuild. One such moment took place in Brooklyn, New York. A teenage boy was drifting, once a bright Talmid. He was now caught in the pool of a secular culture. The joy of Torah dimmed, the fire had cooled. His father, worried and helpless, turned to the Klausenberger Rebbe, Zatzal. The Rebbe had lifted thousands after the Holocaust. Perhaps he could lift this boy too. They entered the Rebbe's study, and the father's heart pounded. What's the Rebbe going to say? But the Rebbe didn't scold. He turned to the boy and he asked him simply, "What do you enjoy?" The boy said, "Movies." No shame, no apologies. "And what else?" the Rebbe asked. "Chess," the boy said. The Rebbe smiled. "Let's make a deal," he offered. "We'll play one match. If I win, you'll learn with me every week for 45 minutes. If you win, I'll watch one of your movies." The boy laughed. "Deal." They played. The Rebbe didn't let him win. He checkmated him fair and square. But he did something far more powerful. He saw the boy not as a project, not as a disappointment, but as a neshama. And the boy kept his word. He came back again and again and again. And slowly something changed. The same soul that was drifting began to anchor. The same heart that cooled began to burn once more. Years later, that boy, now a Talmid Chacham, would say, "That loss was the greatest gift I ever received." Ladies and gentlemen, words have power, but tone can carry eternity. The Meragalim whispered a doubt. The Rebbe whispered dignity. There are people in this world who speak volumes without raising their voice. They guide without gripping. They love without labeling. They leave behind no sound but eternal echoes. Let us never underestimate the subtle. Let us never overlook the glance, the silence, the tone, because sometimes it's not the words that change a life, but the way a soul feels when someone finally listens. That is the sound of a neshama returning home. But let us end with this. I heard it from my Rebbe, Reb Aaron Pessin, just last week, and something so spectacular, Sigula worth $1 billion it deems to be shared. If there was a secret way to guarantee acceptance of your tefillot, how much would you pay? The Elia Rabban Or Chaim Siman Memvav brings a breathtaking teaching in the name of the Mateh Moshe. He writes, "Matzati, I found, kol mi shemechaven be'et hatechila shel hatefila ba'amirit Adon Olam." And he goes on to say, "I have found that anyone who begins tefillah with focused intent during the recitation of Adon Olam, he brings the words then of Rabbi Yehuda HaChasid, Reb Hai Gaon, and Reb Shriya Gaon, who all write, Arav Ani, I personally guarantee it, bedavar, with this thing, shetefilato nishma'at, that his tefillah will be heard. Ein hasatan mikatreg al tefilato, even the Satan cannot become his accuser. Ve'ein lo satan umi pegara, and no harm will befall him." Listen to this line. V'oevav noflim lifanav, and his enemies will fall before him. V'yesh omrim, there are also those that actually say, Yetzer hara mashlim imo. Have you ever heard that? And there are those that even say the Satan will make peace with him. And all of that for simply saying, Adon Olam with kavanah, understanding what you're reading. Not an hour of crying, not a week of fasting or rolling through the snow, just a few lines with Perush HaMilim, understanding what we are saying. And yet, how often is Adon Olam the first korban during korbanot? We skip it, we mumble it, we race right past it. But this week, maybe we don't. Maybe we pause. Perhaps we just sing it on the way to Knis, on the way to Shul. Because that simple tefillah might just be the loudest thing we ever say in Shemayim. Shabbat Shalom u'Mevorach.